Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's up? Hello. Looks good. Yep. Picture looks decent. I'm way off center, but oh well. Saw Doug was in here earlier. Thanks, Doug. Pudgy, Matt Ford, uh, Jaybird, Bradley, Twan, Remus, Blackball, JMZ. What's up? Listen to Tim drink beer and talk about B-17s. Huh. Used B-17s or new B-17s? I have 3 used and 1 new, but I haven't read the new one yet. I don't think I am. So, Pudgy, like you were saying, ride whatever you want. That's my opinion about everything. The point is that we get asked all the time. I get asked all the time now that, like on YouTube comments, but I'm sure you do too. And just me and my friends were out at a restaurant the other day. That's part of the impetus for this discussion. People's opinions on what they should buy and what they should ride. People who are just getting into cycling and stuff like that. So that's kind of the point of the conversation to me. Like, there's like pluses and minuses to both, and that's why the title is "Buy New or Buy Used," not "Buy a Used Bike." F you if you buy new. It's I think it's actually a really good discussion to have, and it's really interesting because it's not as clear cut and as simple as you think, even when it comes to cost. There's like really big differences. So, what's up, Large? Welcome, Jay Dandy, Muskrat, William LeBron in here. Astroblast. Did someone say B-17? Chris Alto, Eddie Walker, what's up? Hey, Patty. I was looking at actually what Patty was drinking, or the beer photo he posted of this fistful of gummies, which looks really good from that Second Chance Brewing, fruited sour in San Diego, and it looks like the Bridgestone in the back there, huh? Yeah. So a couple things. We were sitting at a brewery on Sunday, and our waitress obviously realized we had all ridden our bikes there, and she basically said, she wanted to get into riding bikes, and she hadn't been riding bikes but loves the outdoors, and I think she said her brother was trying to convince her, but she said, she's like, well, I have a budget of like $250, and then I was told save like at least $100 to get the bike you find tuned up at a bike shop, so obviously, when she said 250, I'd be like, oh, you'd be looking in the used market for the best option, obviously. The tough thing with her, she also said she wouldn't mind getting into doing some stuff that would be a little off-road, 250, like, it's tough to find something that's going to be off-road capable and only put $100 in for 250, right? So that's one part of the spectrum, one end of the spectrum, you know. I was thinking like this conversation already discounts if you just want to ride a vintage bike, then you're going to buy a used bike. So if you have the money, you're trying to get a custom bike, you're going to fully build it up, that's a new bike. I think there's just so much space in the middle. And what I've found is this is another thing that I got asked. Someone asked me, just messaged me on Instagram. I can't remember the screen name. Sorry if you're in here, but how much does it cost to convert a vintage mountain bike to a gravel bike? And I was basically like, there's no way to answer that question because there's so many. I mean, it's like saying what does a car cost? It doesn't. Are we talking about a top of the line brand new Hummer, or are we talking about uh, you know a car from the junkyard that you're going to make it run? I don't know. It does. There's just no way to answer that question, and that's where like some of the stuff where I've thought too when I've bought a frame before, and you think like, oh, I have some parts, I'll build it up, it won't be that expensive. How quickly things could add up depending on what you're trying to do with that bike or put on that bike. So wanted to look at some of the comments already, but what's up, Yinzer House? Lanky's in here. Dylan, what's up? Bouncing bike life said, "Damn, she's broker than I am." And here's the other thing. Some people have like. She could be like, she might. That's what she's budgeted in her head. The person who said $250, but she might not realize what's out there for $250, and then might like see those options and be like, oh. I need to save up $500, and I'm just making up these numbers. But a lot of people, and I just know it from having friends who own a bike shop, and a lot of you guys have worked in bike shops, like a lot of people have no clue what different levels of bikes are going to cost. And then, okay, so then I want to say this real quick too. The third thing was I was watching Pathless Pedal, Russ's latest video, and he said, he had a list of best bikes for gravel bike newbies or gravel bike beginners, and it was a really good list. I didn't disagree with like any bike he talked about on the list. The only thing was he didn't mention the used option at all, and I think that obviously wasn't his intention with the subject of the video. Russ isn't dumb; he knows used bikes are an option, but he should have put it in like the title or the thumbnail or somewhere in his at the end. Like, and I know there's a ton of used bikes out there, but to me, like, if you asked what a bike a beginner should get, I would almost always say used in my mind in that case, if it's a complete bike though, because that's the thing. What I was saying before is how quickly buying a frame can add up if you don't have a parts bin. I have the benefit of this channel and my parts bin. When I built up the Marin, Pudgy gave me a set of wheels. Michael Holland gave me the bars and stem. I had vintage Mayfac brakes I put on it. So, I splurged on a couple things like a Thompson seat post and, but you're still going to run cables and housings. If you don't know how to do that stuff yourself, you're paying a mechanic to do that. Tires still cost a lot of money. Pedals cost a lot of money. If you want, again, they run the spectrum, but decent pedals cost decent money. A lot of money's relative, like everything here. So I wonder, like, and I thought about this once too, like my rally, when I had ripped the rear derailleur off, I didn't know how bad I had bent the hanger. And when I got hit on my rally, I didn't know if the frame got bent. So say someone was like, your frame is too messed up. Like, I was just thinking, well, what would I do? And I'm like, man, I've always loved that green, that newer green polyvalent from Velo Orange. So I was thinking, like, would I just buy a bike like that and move everything over because it's kind of comparable, So I don't know, just that kind of thought process. But it was in my mind, I wasn't, I thought only for a minute, like, would I just buy a new frame? Would I get like an All City Space Horse because that's almost the same bike as my bike? But let me see while I'm rambling what everybody else is trying to say. Dylan's been a member for 25 months, and Patty has been a member for 25 months. Amazing. Will asked my thoughts on the Surly preamble. I don't have a ton. I haven't seen one in person. I agree with Jay Dandy's point here. So he said, visit your local co-op rather than a big box bike store, and you'll get a safe bike that will serve you well. I think on the extremely low end, on the extreme low end, I wouldn't go new. Like, so yeah, what? What number would you guys put on that? And it'll take me forever to get caught up to those comments, but like, under what like budget would you not buy a new bike? And I'm talking completes here. So, do people say completes in the cycling world? That's what we called them in the skateboard world when you got a board that had the trucks and wheels and everything. So, but yeah, getting a bike that had everything on it, like, what would you not go below on a new bike? And to me, I feel like that number would have to be around $1,500. I know Russ did show some good options for $1,000, but again, you're going to replace some of those parts relatively quick and be back up to that $1,500 anyways. So I don't know. What's up, Malk? Good to have you in here. Sam Diaz said parts bins bikes on a budget is a myth, and I kind of agree with that. It does, yeah, it's so quick for things to become expensive. Even buying just a vintage road bike, again, usually it's been sitting somewhere, cables and housing, a tune-up, whether you know how to do that yourself or not, changes the price. Tires are usually dry rotted or worn out. I mean, you don't find a lot of like vintage bikes that you're not going to have to do anything to. And if you do, the price is going up already, right? Hey, what's up, Patrick? Bradley said your Soma is your first full build from complete scratch, and it ended up being more than you were expecting. And I think that's a big deal too. Is like if you want modern group sets, like real modern, you want GRX and whatever SRAM calls their stuff. It's not even a diss. I just could never keep it straight because I don't ride any of it. But like then I think a new complete bike makes more sense because group sets are so expensive on their own that, you know, if you do want all the modern shifting and everything like that, I think that's one case where I would say just buy a new bike, then, yeah, see what you guys think about that. Ed Welker said, parts bin bike, dot, dot, dot. Building one tonight. Damned headset spacers are expensive, especially for what they are. Yeah. I think I said, what's up, Patrick? I'm not sure if I did. I started rambling, but. Jay Dandy, so talking about like people not understanding prices, he said, to complete noobs, a bike is a toy and should be priced as a toy in their mind. Yeah, I think that's probably true in a lot of ways. It's so interesting to like when I've been in the shop to watch someone walk in and hear one of the people who work there start to quote what a couple prices and feel out what the person really wants, and then sometimes they'll show them something and be like something like this would be like 2 grand, and the person's like, oh, okay, cool. And other times like maybe guessing that they're looking a little lower budget and showing them 1,500 and like their eyes watering, like they had no idea a new bike could possibly cost that much. And I think to a lot of the people who watch this channel, we know what bikes cost, and that would be like, that's a deal for what they have there. Nike said, don't buy a used full suspension bike in Northeast Ohio. Yonda. Yeah, Nike hasn't had the best luck with used suspension bikes. I mean, that harkens back to what I was saying last week about some things in the mountain bike world that are a little frustrating is they just, they feel disposable or so expensive to fix, which also can make them disposable. Different subject. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. That's why I do think, though, some of those beginner bikes, like a solid steel frame that's decently made, is a good platform to upgrade. I mean, I've looked at like what I've done with my Raleigh, which I, basically traded for. But now, how much money have I put into it? Like enough that I could have bought a nice new bike, but that happened over time. So, end up getting new bars. It's got a new crankset. I've broken the derailleur. Obviously cables and housings with the different group sets. I switched from 9-speed 105 originally to 11-speed 105. Saved some money because my friend had ridden it a few times. So I think I originally paid 600 for the group set. One of my levers stopped working because it was, and probably just tons of use. Uh, we didn't know how to fix it. Pudgy had some Ultegra uh, levers I bought. I think what, $150 Pudgy plus shipping. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. So again, there was like a almost, in essence, free bicycle, but still has probably. Man, I was trying to add this up in my head earlier, and I was going to write it down and do the math, but I was outside working with my buddy all night before I came on and didn't get to do it. But I was easily a grand at this point, right? Jaybird said if you're lucky enough to have a co-op, yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things in Northeast Ohio, like the co-op up in Cleveland that Jay Dandy's talking about. Then we have the Summit Cycling Center down here in Akron. So, Yinzer said, just finished building your wife's new adventure touring gravel bike, and it was 160 total, but parts bin the whole way. New, f- New frame, new tires, and parts bin galore. How'd you How'd you get a new frame for that cheap? So you're saying you spent $162 over the price of the frame? And they says the real cost was the hours you spent overhauling everything. That's definitely something to account for too. If some people love tinkering, some people don't, and again, that's where the cost changes so much. Are you going to have someone else do the work? Are you going to be frustrated and annoyed doing hours and hours of labor, or is it something that you like? So, Patty said on Sunday, a friend asked for advice about buying a new bike. Four of the choices were the same as on Russ's list, but mainly you stressed she should buy from a local shop for the long term support. 100% agree. Like with that, you know, establish a relationship, especially, you're getting an entry level bike that you might want to upgrade. You have a relationship with the shop. I watch this happen all the time where, I mean, the same thing happened through the shop with me and a friend for me to get my 11 speed 105 group set. All his other bikes were SRAM. He wanted to switch that. I was able to scoop it, have the shop put that on my bike. So, Dimitri said 2 to 3 Canadian new used is what you budgeted for. And then Lanky, I think you were answering my question about like if you're going to buy a new bike, what would the floor be before you went used? And you said 1,500 for road, slightly more for mountain bike. Yeah, I think 1,500 is probably a solid number. Where I'd like not to shade some of those 1,250 bikes that they're decent. I just think that's where I would want to tell people. Matt said parts bikes are super expensive. You've just already paid for it. Parts bikes are super expensive. Yeah, but I mean, the manufacturers like Shimano and SRAM are obviously giving the bike brands, who are buying at scale a deal that you'll never get on your own. So, trying to get gear ratio, shifters, and Frankenstein's part to work correctly is where the skill comes in. Yeah, for sure. Again, and that also depends on what you're doing. When you get to, you know, vintage road bikes with vintage parts, a little easier. But oh man, how far down the chat am I? Oh, not too bad. See if I could catch up. Chris Alta said he always tells people to spend 1,000 plus for something they'll be happy with and shifts brakes reliably. Yeah, I don't know like long term. So someone here might have a better answer, but like the bikes they're selling with the micro shift that are good new, like does, and I guess maybe no one knows because the better micro shift isn't that old yet. How does that stuff hold up? But I think that is a big game. Some of these cheaper, group sets are kind of a game changer to making a new bike more accessible. Um, I, as everyone here already knows, I'm a big proponent of something like Shimano, 9 speed, and get a wolf tooth or something to drop the derailleur down to a longer gear ratios and stuff like that. Is a good way to go budget. If that's what you're trying to do. So. Yinzer says our house is becoming a bike parts co-op. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking the other day looking at my bikes, I'm like, thank God this YouTube channel, it makes me be able to justify this stuff a little bit. I think Dimitri was talking about that. He needs to do more videos so he could buy more bikes. But it is, I mean, tinkering with bikes and making videos about bikes is an excuse. But the thing is, I bought a lot of these bikes before anyone was watching this YouTube channel. So Dylan said bought his Surly Big Dummy as a complete so he could sell the parts off the frame and have the build for free. Said he did pull from your parts bin, so technically not free. That's the other thing too. When we do talk about our parts bins, depending on how you acquired stuff, you know, those are probably most likely something that costed you money at some point. You know, unless someone offers you 4 free mountain bikes out in Pittsburgh, so which happened. Sam said, "What Brook saddle are you putting on your build?" Is the real question. Large said, complete noobs have no idea what they're looking for either, so buying used could be tricky. That's a really good point because, that's why the first thing we asked our waitress when she said she was looking for a bike is like, what do you intend to do? Like, and that's the problem with giving anybody new to cycling advice because even what they intend to do could change so quickly. That's why I have a bunch of vintage road bikes that I only ride a little bit now because I always want the option to ride wherever I want. Like said, the industrial gravel on the way home. If I want to make that cut and I'm on my gravel bike, I have that option. So, but yeah, you. That's I guess that argument could go both ways though, Large. That could be the argument for buying something cheap used, buy a vintage road bike for you get a decent one for 150 bucks. See how much you like riding, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, my friends are over there on the gravel. Then maybe you'll have a better idea of what you want when you do lay down some money. So. But yeah, I think it's harder to be like, it's easier to walk into a shop and give them an idea and they could point you in the right direction than just to look at Craigslist with no idea of what you want. So it goes both ways. Chris Alta said your cheap parts bike is almost up to $700. Yeah, get there real quick. Dylan's saddle comment's great. I try not to engage. I try not to engage with the saddle talk. Anyone new? These chats always turn into a saddle conversation, and I'm a Brooks B17 fan, so trying to keep it fresh. That's why I put something in the title from now on. Twan said, "Ride the best you can reasonably afford." I That's a really good point. Again, like to Large's point, if you have no idea what you want, that's really tough. But yeah, and I say the best you could reasonably afford. Sometimes you can really find a used bike that is like a good deal. And this, as we all know, and we've seen, even if you're younger, just in the last few years, the way the used bike market just goes up and down. It seems to be since I've been paying attention in cycling, something almost like a 5 year like cycle of, times are hard, used bikes get popular, or like the part shortage, which was like a once in a, I don't know, generation thing, it almost seems like, but used bikes prices skyrocket. So that's all relative as well and hard to figure out depending on how good you are at searching for stuff. Yeah, something like, like it's asked about. Yeah, Surly's just a great platform. Like people, I think Russ mentioned the cross check for beginners. Yeah, something that could endlessly be changed and upgraded. Cross check, I guess you limit yourself with tire size. I think someone else brought up the straggler, but yeah, Dimitri said you got it used. Hope you didn't get ripped off. And again, prices are so relative. In different cities, stuff costs different regions, stuff costs different. So the thing is, I guess you didn't get ripped off if you had the budget and you're enjoying it, and it's working. It's not breaking on you, so you're not constantly putting more money into it besides the regular stuff. Eddie said, "We're oddballs. Most people buying used bikes are not likely upgrading, so it is economical, especially if you have a friend who can wrench." And that's another one though where I could see both ways. So if you're like a noob and you buy a new bike and it doesn't need a lot of work, that might be the simpler option. But uh, what's Will said you got a budget 90s mountain bike and did it all up. Rode so much and it got you into cycling, now getting a new bike to future proof a bit and have updated bars. That makes sense. I mean, the trajectory of watching all our friends, like our people that I ride with now that have gotten into cycling since I was already into cycling, is so interesting. A lot of people who bought States and Fairdales that were simple, upgraded them for a little bit, then finally realized now I also want this. Or a lot of times it wasn't even that the bike or the components on that bike is what they outgrew. It's again what I was saying. It was a move just to now also want a bike that can do this instead. So it's that, um, you know, now I want to ride more off road, or now I want to ride more road. So balancing bike life said, like Jay Dandy said, when you're a noob, you don't know. So you went super cheap until you knew what you wanted to buy. Yeah, that's yeah. It also depends. Do you have anyone around to give you advice? How good are you at researching this stuff? Like I said, with my nerdiness level, I just kind of dive into everything I'm into. So, fixed up my dad's old bike. Uh, I was riding my vintage mountain bike, vintage 2001 that I bought new, but that was just my bike. Then I got my dad's Motobacon, and I'm like, oh, I love this road bike, and started researching. And I'm like, this is actually fairly heavy. It doesn't really shift that well. Tried to upgrade it with a couple things, and like, it just wasn't really upgradable that well. French standards. Just kind of a pain. Certain things weren't working out, and after a while, it's like, oh, picked up this road bike, learned how to work on that road bike a little bit, did more research, knew when I was seeing a good deal and when I wasn't. But that's someone who's a total nerd. That's why I still have this channel, because I just always want to learn more and more about this kind of stuff. So, Matt Ford said, parts aside, how much in tools and experience does it take to deal with used? And that's like one of those questions that you can't answer unless we know exactly what area you're talking about. Like, there's not that much specialized to work on a really vintage road bike or a really vintage mountain bike. There still is stuff that you have to have. What I would do a lot of times when I was getting into it is, you know, when I realized I didn't have that tool, I would go down to the bike shop that's on just, a few blocks from me, and I would tell them what I was trying to do. They'd explain it, and it was cool. They would be like, here's what the tool cost. Here's what we would charge to do it for you. And so I would make that calculation. I'd be like, this is a tool I'll probably use multiple times. I'll buy the tool. Or this is a one off. If this is $60, pay the $60, So, oh, I got you, Yinzer. So you said the used frame you were talking about was a $70 old Diamondback. Gotcha. Hey, what's up, Master of Disaster? Master of Disaster says, best money you spent throughout your life has been on bikes. As most people know here, the bike expense is just the beginning. With the extras and maintenance, it is the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. And I also, so if you do get into it, and this taking the noobs out of the equation, say you are into it, I do look at some of my bike expenses as, and we've talked about this before a bunch too, is how much I'm not spending on gasoline and driving. You know, there are so many times, like I get in my car, there are times when I realize like I haven't been in my car for a week and a half. This to say, Akron and Cuyahoga Falls is a place without very good public transportation. There's some buses. Um, I'm someone who does have to move gear sometimes. Like I go to a big shoot, I need portrait lighting and all that kind of stuff. So that's like pretty much when I drive, and then just the worst of the worst weather. But yeah, so I do look at like the money like we spend on maintenance and I spend on bikes. Obviously, I go over and above a little bit with like frivolous used stuff, but if I only had my rally and say maybe a backup bike, it would totally be the cost of what I put into that is totally justifiable. And like we said, you know, your car goes into the shop for almost anything. You're at what, $300? That's could be a bicycle right there, but or an upgrade to your bicycle. Muskrat said there's a cool 1984 Lee World stump jumper replica on Akron Craigs. Huh. We'll check that out. Sam says you've spent a lot on your bikes, but you have no regrets. That's what you keep telling yourself. Yeah, I mean, you got to live within your means in anything you're into in life, right? I mean, Pudgy was talking about his new R7, which is a massive like upgrade in technology over the camera he had before, and you know, if he has the budget, I mean, he's gonna love that camera. It's it's just something that makes so much more sense for what he's going to photograph now and stuff like that. So, but it's got to be in your budget. You know, you can't bankrupt yourself. Tuan said, "Learn to build, fix everything yourself, and use saves money, and use the save money to get high quality parts." Yeah, and I guess again that does bring tools and stuff like that into the equation. But I always say like with some of the new stuff, I just don't enjoy tinkering with it. Like even the front derailleur on my 105 11 speed group set, like the stupid cable routing and the little top cap thing and all that. But whoop, froze up. Oh, already came back. It started moving when I had it unplugged. I think I have a ghost in the camera, ghost in the machine. Isn't that a police record? Anyways. Pudgy said microshift you wouldn't look at for longevity for mountain bike and gravel stuffs. Hey, what's up, Ian Wee? How's it going? Oh, Eddie said you like the Dirty River shirt. Yeah, genuine article designed that. Someone drop his little. Do I have him as exclamation point Micah? You could go to it, see his all his artwork. Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, now the used market is probably saturated. We were talking about, and I think I've started to see it a little bit, but we're talking me and Large and Funny Brad and Maris about like the COVID bike thing. You know, being a COVID bike boom, um, like how many people bought those bikes, and they're just leaning up there. But people are still asking a lot of money for those bikes because they didn't ride them. A lot of people didn't ride them that much, and think they're going to get what they paid for it, which isn't the case because the bike shops ordered a lot of bikes, and there's a lot of deals on bikes out there. So, yeah, you put yourself in a bad position if you went out and did buy a new bike, and you didn't ride it much, and now you want to sell it because if you're only going to give me a $200 discount on an $1,800 bike, and I say me, like whoever, that person could just go in and get a new bike for almost the same price, if not the same price with certain sales going on. So let's see. Oh, thanks, Dimitri. I don't know how to a B17 emoji. That is a good idea. Someone remind me in the Discord, and I'll make one. Brad asked if it's going to Ronnie's Spring Fling. No, that's the it's a hike for us, so we really only get that far like once a year. But that's the same weekend as Black Fork, which a bunch of us from around here are doing a gravel ride race in central-ish Ohio. I would love to, but yeah, it's such a hike. Hey, what's up, Mitchell? Eddie said, "What's with this with Surly pre-cutting steerer tube stuff?" I know nothing about that, so I'll have to see if someone's already chimed in on the comments. Pudgy said, "Yard sales and thrift stores are a good starting point if you could bring a friend who knows bikes." I've Yard sales. I've seen good bikes at yard sales. I've never seen a decent bike at my thrift stores, but that doesn't mean they aren't out there. And I was also when I was doing the thrift store thing way more. I wasn't looking at bikes as much back then. I was always looking for cameras, which I was scoring all the time. Patty said, agreed. Um, exactly where your friend is moving on from. Got a good deal on a yard sale bike. Now she's ready for something nicer after a weekend of bike camping. Jay Dandy said, how long has the Brooks B17 been around? 70 years, maybe. Steel frames. Well, since the beginning, um, late 18, late 1800s. Some things just work. Buy new tech if you know what you want, but there's a lot of old tech that'll serve you well. Yeah, and I've talked about that too. I made that joke when I rode the Roger Riviera in that video about like, you know, rim brakes and friction shifting, which like people rode this stuff forever. You're not going to die. Or like, I know Russ in the last video was like, it's quick release, and some people freak out about quick release. I've got 20,000 miles on a disc bike with quick releases. Like, just yes, it's not that like. And again, I'm always saying I'm not saying that new tech isn't an improvement on old tech, but the idea that the old stuff didn't work. You know what I mean? Like I've said, people descended mountains for the first, what, over 100 years of the Tour de France on rim brakes, and ones that aren't nearly as good as the rim brakes that are out there now. And, you know, and some of them are dead. just just destroy my whole argument. But yeah. Jay Dandy said, the more you learn, the more you understand Grant Peterson. You're going down the Rick path. Hey, Andrew Smith, you said for a new bike though, what is the too much limit? I that's like going to be such. I mean, obviously that's such a personal question for anyone. Like, so depends on your budget, because say exactly what you like in a bike and you want to have a custom frame built up by Monet or whoever it may be, but so. And then you want to put White Industries and Chris King, so you could get real high real fast. So I would say if you have the budget, there's no limit on that. But I look at like a Pinarello, their latest carbon fiber slammed aero race bike. To me, for almost every normal human on the planet, that bike costs too much, even if it costs the same as that custom steel frame would or custom whatever bike, because that's a bike that's made for something you're never going to use it for. You cannot get the benefits out of a $12,000, $10,000 race bike. And when I say you, I mean 98% of people who ride bikes. So I guess that would be like my opinion on that. It's too much if it's. I think who was talking about that? I think it might have been a GCN video either, because like you have too much bike. And again, if it puts you in an uncomfortable position and the riding's uncomfortable, then I think you can have too much bike. I think you could having a super expensive race bike, if you don't want to be in a slam position, is too much. But I mean, again, if you ride road and you just have tons of money, that's fine, whatever, I guess. I'm just drinking green tea tonight. I actually just didn't. Probably would have grabbed beer if I had time, but went right from we're actually trying to fix the back wall, external wall of the studio. There's a bunch of cracks and some of this brick stuff is breaking down, so we were trying to concrete patch it. So I went right from doing that to coming down here. So outside, so some hot tea is actually fine tonight. Andrew Smith also said, where does the gouge start? There's a debate for that on a lot of different, even some stuff that I think a lot of people here ride. But hey, what's up, Eduardo? You said you've been riding bikes seriously since 2019. Always bought used road bikes and 90s mountain bikes. Your level of fitness and the type of riding you do, you've never needed to buy a brand new expensive bikes. Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, it's kind of where I am. So when it comes to new bikes, I bought one. It's my 2001 Trek 4900. That's my snow bike. That's the only new bike I've ever bought. That doesn't like again though. It doesn't mean I'm like a total advocate for only buying used bikes. Like I said, I do think there is a point where, you know, depending on what you're trying to do and what you want, a new bike makes sense. So. Yender said bikes are a good foray into learning how to repair and maintain other things in life, cars, home renovations, other gear. Fairly low risk learning on cheaper rigs. True, with the understanding that you need to make sure what you've done is safe. You could really F yourself up if you do something wrong with no clue on a bike. And for me, whenever I've built like a bike, especially when I was really noob, I would like ride it around the neighborhood a couple times, then check everything again. And, before I would be like taking off and bombing a hill, I basically live on the edge of the valley. So before I'm bombing down the brick road into the valley, I was always very cautious about that. And I think that's something to keep in mind as well. Because when I bought my vintage Trek 500, I didn't, it looked like they had redone everything. And they had, like it was, you know, had new tape, so I'm like, oh, someone's really gone over this. And I went out and wrote it, and there were so many things that were loose and sketchy on there. And then it was like one of those moments where I'm like, that was dumb. You shouldn't have done that, no matter what it looks like. Always check, something before you head out. So, hey, what's up, Kim? Kim said, newest frame is used. Last two were new. However, whatever. Prefer to build yourself. Yeah. Bouncing Bike Life said, buy used, you lose $1,000 on a new as soon as you ride it off the lot. Funny thing is, like, with certain, like, there is stuff like, that is collectible, so you actually can make money on bikes too. But how much, how much, stuff that's coming out right now will become collectible? But I mean, I guess that's why stuff becomes collectible, because every generation thinks that. So, right. Jay Dandy says, and we keep talking about a bike. When you become a bike nerd, we know it becomes bikes for sure. Oh yeah, Pudgy, I forgot your text. You asked me about buying your Paul brake set. I don't think so. I don't think I need them. Because my Marin is the bike I would put them on, and I'm just not like, I don't think I'm going to ride that bike fully loaded anymore, and so I think I might just stick with my Mayfax. Kim Rice said, prefer quick release. Through axles are harsh. Huh. I'm about to find out. I have never. The bike, the Gunner that I'm building now, will be my first through axle bike. Jay Dandy said Paul and Chris King are good examples of generally not high tech, but high quality. Yeah, yeah. I think I. It's interesting on the arguments on some of that stuff. I was thinking again on. I went out for about 15 miles today. Uh, a company sent me like a really cheap GoPro knockoff that I'm gonna make a video about, and whether it's worth, you know, again, a used GoPro versus this new cheap thing. It's almost the same debate I was having in my head. But again, like looking at my whatever the headset is on my Raleigh FSA, I guess it depends on the parts. Like it's never failed me. I can't tell anything like different. So I think some stuff is bling. I mean, do you guys think the pins and ramps on white cranksets are, if you're going two by, like better than the pins and ramps on Shimano or SRAM to shift? That stuff's cooler. It's made in the USA. It's made by a small company, but so I'd say it depends on all that stuff. I mean, there is an argument to be made too for who you want to support with your dollar, which is something that I think about in a lot of aspects in my life. So, Pudgy said you disagree on Chris King not being high tech. Their hubs are incredible. Yeah, I guess it depends too on which part we're talking about. Paul's brakes are not high tech. Like, we talk about the Neo Retros, they're straight up improved versions of the Mayfax, but they're expensive because they're made by machined by a small company in the US. So, I've clicked all the wrong buttons. Oh, nice. We got some emojis. I am able to. Oh yeah, I could open in the browser and download it. Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Dimitri. I'll get those up for the chat for next week. Am I putting the new SRAM on the gunner? Yeah. Diversity Love asked if I would ever get a trike. Um, not unless like recumbent, trike, anything. Like, not unless like my back got so bad that I couldn't sit upright on a bike. Cues on the gunner. Yeah. The group set on the gunner is most like the shifters and the derailleurs are, I think it's 10 speed Shimano, so mountain bike stuff, because it's going to be a sweep bar bike. So yeah, but I don't know what the exact name of the stuff is. Have to ask Otis. It's something he had. So Charles said something special about getting an old bike, sprucing it up, then blowing the doors off some out of shape poser on a $16,000 plastic wonder bike. I've said before on here, I'm guilty. Like just, even when I was just riding my old mountain bike stock and being in the valley, and someone came around me, and I also knew nothing about bike etiquette when I got back into cycling, and would just like jump on their wheel and like might say something. So I guess that is bike etiquette if you stay on someone's wheel to say something like, be like, hey, like gonna ride in the draft for a while, and like just watching someone in kit have their mind blown by me on my mountain bike in my jeans. But not to say I'm that fast, but it was always fun to try and do. So used bike says used bikes are like gambling. You know when to leave the used bike casino, when you won big, and when never to go back there again. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is like if you have no clue, like going back to the noobs conversation, you don't know what the bike you're looking at is worth. And I think William said I should make a video about buying used bikes, and I've thought about that on the road bike thing, and I've made this video in my head 100 times. You know, the things to look for at least, and kind of roughly what price range that should put them in. You know, but even that stuff is, it's kind of hard to show. It's kind of hard to explain, like the dropout thing, like the sheet metal dropouts versus forged dropouts. You know, like kind of the way the dork discs would look on the front chain rings versus you know even if we're talking road bikes still here, the down tube shifting versus I don't know, all those little things. So I've thought about it. Then I'm like, is there enough there to give the advice online that makes sense? I don't know. Tuan said for most things, anything above a certain price point is diminishing returns, like luxury for sure. And I think that's 100% true. And it's a lot of the like when the Italian brands make their special edition or whatever that custom geometry Calnago put out like a year ago, that is not the bike that the pros race on. It's not the monocoque Taiwanese frame that you know that what's his name Pogacar is going to win the Tour de France on, or could win the Tour de France on. Like it was a luxury thing. Like someone brought it to you and set it up for you. Definitely diminishing returns with bikes being faster on like I said, unless you're riding a 3 week race with the best people in the world, and the margins are going to be within 5 minutes over those 3,000 miles. So I will. I will take the emojis, blackball Chris, and make a Brooks command. I can do it while we're live. It's just I don't want to. I can't. I'll be too distracted. I'll just wait till after the stream. Hey, what's up, Mile High? How you doing? He said, Mile High says, "Hey, all Mile High, and I have a bike. Mile High, and I have a bike problem. Spontaneously bought a mountain bike today. Oh, nice. Did you buy it from the same? Because you had that. Your gravel bikes are those interesting. It was a British company, right? Yeah. Eddie Welker says, seriously though, you need a map joke, even though you don't get them. I like Jay Dandy's Brooks saddle emoji. The horse in the chair. That's so good. Uh, oh, Yinzer, I was wondering what that new specialized cost. I didn't see the price on anything I looked at. Again, like I said, it was a busy day, but yeah, the Cirrus. Yeah, that was whatever. I mean, not my cup of tea, obviously, but Large Marge said, out of shape, in shape, 16,000 or $250. Who cares? Have fun on your bike and don't be a dick. Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Uh, Diversity Love says, if people get antique bike parts, we should let you photograph it for a journal documentary. Yeah, no, and I've taken some of mine and made like really cool photos, some of the vintage parts even separately and even the complete builds. Uh, I love doing it. Like bike parts are so fun to light. And again, like I'm coming at it from the angle of one, bike nerds. We're talking mostly to bike nerds, so to debate certain parts and what they cost makes total sense in this forum. Uh, so like it's not being pretentious. It's just people who are into the thing and talking about it with the people who are most into the thing is pretty normal in any hobby, passion, sport, you know. So and the other, so I do agree. Like I don't, yeah, like I'm not like anti people who just commute and don't even care at all about their bikes in the Netherlands. Like all the really cool Peugeots that people weren't even putting the air in the tires in to ride around France because it's just what bikes are there and they're riding around. I don't, yeah, that's cool. Those people don't care about bikes. They're not watching this channel. They there was their dad's bike or their grandpa's bike and it's the bike they ride and it gets them around. You know, same thing. Like I said, for 2 decades rode this almost 2 decades rode the same bike, never thought about it, didn't think about a pair of bike specific clothes, whether they were something that doesn't look like bike clothes like chrome or spandex. Like I said, I always was aware of the Tour de France. My brother loved it. We had it on TV, but I never ever once thought that I would go out and buy that stuff. But I don't care if people do. But it just, this is a bike nerd channel. And then, like, again, to the point of the discussion is that every bike nerd gets asked by non bike nerds these kind of questions. And they're actually kind of important questions to try and figure out how we respond to them and try and help people get into what we love. And a thing that's really good for the environment, that's good for the way cities operate. So that's kind of, where I'm coming at it from. It's easy as we start chatting to go down the rabbit hole of what's worth what and what you should pay for what. That's bike nerd talk. And that's what this live stream is. But I do agree with, yeah, ride bikes and have fun. Like, oh, Mile, how you were saying your bikes were, your gravel bikes are Fairlights. You bought some Santa Cruz high towers. Oh, nice. Pudgy said it's odd they're going on the Specialized Cirrus since it's their cheap fitness bike currently. Yeah, I don't. I only really today. I only really saw the like YouTube thumbnails and then a couple things on social media. So I don't know how hard Specialized is going on that bike, but take your word for it. Again, like my opinion on the Cirrus is going to be the same as what I always say. It looks like it's solving a problem that they created. It's like let's try and make this bike comfortable because we made it out of a really uncomfortable material. Like I just to me it's like I always find that whole thing a little weird of let's add all this expensive tech to this super to make it squishy to this super stiff thing we built. That's like don't build it super stiff in the first place. Then you don't have to put a bunch of expensive shit on it. Like, I don't know. That'll always be in my opinion on the gravelish bike that has all this extra stuff on it. Like, just don't make it like that in the first place. Then we don't have to have a bunch of expensive stuff and expensive maintenance and stuff that's going to break. So that's one thing I'll probably never change my mind on until Specialized sends me those for free. Diversity love. You said you like antique hunting, so wish you luck. It's funny because I was like Saturday morning hobby was going to estate sales. I used to hit the thrift store every week, um, but I just don't. Besides the bike stuff, which I do hang all over the basement, like up where I live and work, I just wanted to stop accumulating stuff, so I just got this space for bikes, and that's it, pretty much. Oh, I missed a bunch of comments somehow. I must have scrolled down really fast. I did. Oh, hey, what's up, Racer? I saw you. Okay, I see you jumped in there. I did totally miss it. Mile High said you don't care a lot about the specifics of bikes, but you still watch the channel. You like the way I shoot in videos and the music. Thanks. Um, I think I have a. I thought I remembered to put a link to your music in here. I can't remember what I titled it. Let's see if I. Let's see if I did. See if that works. Yeah, and that's why that's one of the things too. Like doing some of the topic videos is fun, and like a lot of times I like the last video I just wanted. Part of it was I wanted to try out that new teleprompter I bought for work, and so coming up with something that was a script was something I wanted to do. But a lot of times I still want to just like play music and make videos, like pick a good song and make videos. So yeah, the channel's always going to be all over the place. I don't want to do talking head videos all the time. I don't want to vlog all the time. I don't want to just do ride videos all the time. I want to mix it up. So yeah, when I see one of the videos get like way less views, I'm like, okay. I'm like, doesn't mean I'm not going to do it again. Got to entertain myself too. Used Bike said, not many people like blogs about bike repair and buying used bikes, except bike mechanics and collectors. Gets repetitive and a lot of never ending questions about repairs and stuff. Yeah, it's funny because that's like the stuff I look for when I buy used bikes. But again, I guess I'm a amateur bike mechanic and uh, kind of a collector, just not a high end collector. God, I don't know why this chat is so hard to scroll. Sorry, I know it's boring to hear me say this every stream, but I try to go back and up and down and catch up, and it just like jumps like crazy. And it's not my mouse because it doesn't do that with anything else. Steven said, "Long live the estate sale rat bike." It's funny because I've only ever bought one bike at an estate sale, and it was for an ex girlfriend. But like I said, I've kind of just since I've been into bikes laid off on the estate sales because Saturday mornings have become riding instead of hunting for stuff. So, and I also used to have a house too. So estate sales, we always liked vintage used stuff over going out and buying new stuff to save the money and to find something cool. So, but aren't Garbaggio's all um, just different bikes like reconfigured, rewelded into like different shapes? Those are the only. I mean, that's what the ones I saw at Nutmeg. That's what they seem like. But oh, Jay Dandy posted some. I'll pull them up here. Ron Stuff said, "Hi, I'll get both. Buy a new bike and just enjoy. Pull a beater out of the trash can and customize." Yeah. I guess yeah, like we are saying, if you're talking to a noob, I like the idea. Pull the beater out. If you have someone in some way to get it fixed up, figure out what you like, buy something nicer. But that's one path. There's a million. Oh, you guys, Yinzer, Racer, you guys talk about whatever you want in the chat. No big deal. That's what it's for. Yeah. Uh, Jay Danny said, Tim, amateur mechanic, will give you the pre button up service. That's what Otis thinks. Excuse me. That's Cridler. Hey, what's up? Said Garbaggio's Nick in New York City. He reshapes a lot of old crust bits into one offs. Yeah, that's the way I was trying to describe it, which I couldn't do. Used Bike says on one video the song playing was a French lady singing. I think yeah, that's see if the name of the band comes to me, but I love that band's music. But I always, by the way, the songs are always listed in the description. So if you like a song, I link to the actual song. So I get a slight idea about what's in French. I do lingo it, but I'm definitely not fluent. Arjan, you said, I bet you met your friend Brian at Nutmeg. He was riding the Orn Garbaggio with mint green tires. I remember the bike for sure. I met so many people there, so it's hard to remember. But let me open this up. See if we can get a bigger. Yeah. Wait, what happened? Why is that like a screen cap of my. Why is that doing it like that? Oh, you were screen capping them. Yeah. I can't really get them big enough on here, but yeah, I remember seeing one something like that. Oh, that's beer. Yeah, those are the Garbaggio for sure. Hey, what's up, Glenn? Glenn said you live in West Australia and you have hard waste verge collections. Hard waste verge collections. Try it. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Prior to COVID, you could scavenge components and upgrade your classic for free. Huh. Pudgy said you talking about Josh's orange Garbaggio. Wait, Josh's one done till after? I was looking at him. There was a couple sitting in the tent section, Pudgy, where you could like sell stuff, and there was an orange Garbaggio there too. I think I have a photo of it actually. Yeah, check those out. You'll be able to see the photos in the Discord way better than um, me pulling them up here on the live stream. But whoops, Huffer. That's great. I'll take a look and see if I do have a photo of the other one, just because now I'm curious. What else did I miss in these comments? Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Is that it? Let's see. I have a photo that's not clear. It is in this picture. The Huffer is back there in the background that we were looking at, but oh, there's one there too. Oh, so these are all the Garbaggios. That's right. But you just can't see that chair's blocking the one that I was thinking of with that double kind of fork thing going on. But anywho, oh, Glenn said large items that you would put out on the Verge. The Verge isn't a. Um, that's what was throwing me off. So like you're kind of saying curb. Verge isn't a American English word that would mean that, but I think I got you now. So Critter said Ron had a Garbaggio made before nutmeg with a nutmeg rally with wild truss fork. Racer said, anyone remember that old Hutch 20 with the fairing from the 80s? I don't. Critter said, Nick redesigned the scapegoat and also for crust and does paint for the dirt jumper. All right. Racer said, if you could find a good deal on Brifters, you could build a killer bike for 500 or less. Like I said, if you're willing to go 9-speed, they're not that expensive right now. See if I have any other pictures of the cool bikes from Nutmeg. I don't think I took like a ton from that year, like from the bikes that. I mean, I took a ton, but just not. Anyways, yeah, Racer 9-speed Sora for sure. Can one for some reason I've never looked up the prices on 10-speed 105 just because I have so many 9-speed bikes that makes them like almost interchangeable. So I kind of stick to that. Like, but yeah, it depends on what the rest of the stuff you have going on already is, Racer. Oh, this is cool. Because Nutmeg 2 years ago, that Wild was just the prototype at the time. Probably the only one, Jeff Brain's bike. Yinder said running an experiment on knockoff microshift drifters at the moment to see if they'll play nice with a mountain bike drivetrain. Hmm. And Pudgy said, nice thing about 9-speed Shimano is all of it, road and mountain bike, play nice together. Is 10 where they switched it? Is 10 where everything stopped being compatible? Let's see what else we got. I somehow messed all this up. Oh, Lenky dropped his drink in here. He was drinking a Athletic Brewing Company's Trailblazer non-alcoholic Hoppy Hells. I still have yet to try any of the modern non-alcohol craft beers. To say, I usually just go for the tea or something different when I'm not drinking. On the rare occasion I'm not drinking. Pudgy said, all the rest are not compatible, cheap or expensive. Gotcha. Sam said Jeff Rain is an awesome dude. Got to chat with him at Mid South. Yeah, it's so friendly. Just such a friendly dude. Well, guys, I think I'm going to keep it short tonight because again, I've got to get up early, and I like the idea of like kind of covering a topic and then letting it wander again. But yeah, I'm I know it's only 10:15, but I've just been I've been exhausted and I'm getting up early. So yeah, I think we'll call it a night. I did want to say this. I am going to be in Michigan next Tuesday for a work gig. So I think we're trying to come back Tuesday night. It's there's it would be late if I got back, so there's no chance we'd be live. Um, and then every other Tuesday in April, I am shooting an event, but they're supposed to end at 7:30. My goal is to ride my bike to them, but I don't think that's going to affect being able to stream on Tuesdays. But if it does, as always, I'll let you know. If you're in the Discord, that's where I always post about it. So, all right, yeah, always fun chatting, guys. Yeah, see what we have coming out. Like I said, no Tuesday. Try and aim for Thursday. If not, maybe a fun Friday afternoon stream. So we'll see what happens. See y'all later.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Cause
Yeah.
this time.
Fitzwater photo.
RacerX84107112 super chatted $10. Thanks, Tim.